Welcome to Takeover, the most underrated sports debate show on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe for that weekly sports content. Your boy is back.
Welcome back, Cam. We missed you a lot, although I don't like the hat. I'm going to be completely honest, but there are reasons for it.
It's just the color coordination.
In fairness, I am wearing a Tampa Bay Rays jersey, but that's more for the name on the back as opposed to the name on the front. Anyway, my name is Josh, as you all know out there.
My name is Deandra.
It's your boy Cam, and this is Takeover.
We play it all in night. Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind out the muscle, pull up. Parker right on the grass. We coming in, take over everything, run it up. Nothing holding me back. 3 in the wood, rushing.
All right, well, I'm assuming you've read the title. That's probably why you clicked on it. We're going to get right into it. NBA was doing their 75th anniversary stuff, naming the top 75 players of all time. They left Kobe out of the top 5. Is Kobe top 5 in y'all's book?
You know, usually for these type of topics, it gets so crazy because you don't want to use emotional bias, you don't want anything. But I think the craziest thing when people look at Kobe Bryant and look at players is recency bias. We can't compare LeBron James to Michael Jordan. You wanna know why? LeBron James 6'8", they played in different sections of years. They're different. Can't compare Mike to Wilt. Wilt's a big, right? You can't do that. Mark Jackson in 2006 on ABC stated, Kobe Bryant will go down as the greatest player of all time. And he played Mike. He played what we call the GOAT, and went on to say that the only thing that Mike was superior to Kobe was defending. Kobe Bryant is a top 5 player, and a lot of people don't want to say this because it gets a little weird when you throw all the bigs in there. But how can Kobe Bryant not be a top 5 player when he's continually being compared to the greatest player of all time? When we think about Kobe Bryant, he's a mirror of Michael Jordan. It's the exact same player. It's literally there's not much you can say that one was different or one was better. Let's check Kobe's resume. Could he score? Kobe was a 2-time scoring champ. Could he play defense? He was a 12-time all first team NBA player. You gotta look at the championships. 5 championships, 2 final MVPs. Could he win an actual MVP during the season? He won an MVP in 2007. I think he got robbed by Steve Nash one year. Could he be clutch? I don't really have to answer that question because you know who Kobe Bryant was. And there's a lot of people's argument about why Kobe isn't top 5 is the Shaq argument. Shaq was better than Kobe in the years that they were winning. But I find that a very picky situation because if that was the case, why don't we put Wilt over Mike in some discussions? Why don't we put some bigs over some guards in some discussions? I feel like the guard play elevates the bigs. You think of what Giannis and Chris Middleton did last year. I could say Chris Middleton was just as valuable as Giannis down the stretch, and Giannis gets all the credit for what he did. The Hawks had a plan for Giannis. They didn't have a plan for Chris Middleton. The Suns had a plan for Giannis. It didn't work because they guarded him one-on-one, but they didn't really have a plan for Chris Middleton. You look at what Shaq did after. Kobe. He couldn't win with Penny, and he went with D-Wade, and that was his only. He got bounced around from other teams. But that was the only time. That was the only time winning. And you look at what he did with Kobe. He 3-peated. You look at what Kobe did after oh my gosh! You look at what Kobe did after Shaq. He won 2 more championships with Pau Gasol and Lamar Odom, who weren't top 75 players. He went into Boston and beat the Boston Big 3. He had to get through the East. He beat number 1 seeds, and that's why I think it's really gets hard when you're trying to narrow down that top 5 and you're missing out Kobe. So the real case and the real thing that we're arguing right here is Kobe better than Larry Bird, and I think the answer to that question is an astounding yes.
If I were to answer this question without any personal bias or being objective, I wouldn't say that Kobe is top 5, but I would definitely say that he's top 10 because I feel like the top 10 is already an elite group, let alone the top 5. And the reason why I feel like it would be very difficult for Kobe to kind of break the top 5, especially when we're looking at the perception of other people, because when Kobe came into the league, you could arguably say that the top 3 to 4 spots were already cemented in most people's minds. And also, you brought up how similar he is to Mike, but I feel like that could also go against him in certain ways because when he's so similar to him with the way they approach the game and the mentality, most people would say, why do we need Kobe in the top 5 when you already have Michael Jordan? I'm not saying that, but that's the narrative. Most people were saying that he's basically a worse version of Michael Jordan. That's what some people were saying. So to me, the first four in my top five, in my opinion, are cemented already. But the fifth spot tends to kind of get interchangeable for me. Like sometimes I change my mind on it. I'm never sure of who I want to put there. So for the first four, I have MJ, LeBron, Magic, and Kareem. And for the fifth spot, I either put Tim Duncan, Kobe, or Bill Russell. The reason why I would say Tim Duncan could be above Kobe is because he played for one of the most slowest paced offenses. He still averaged 26 in that offense in his MVP years. Came into the league averaging 25 and 10. They had the same amount of championships, but I think if I'm correct, he had one more regular season MVP and one more finals MVP. And to me, Tim Duncan did it on both sides of the floor. He's one of the best defensive players of all time. And then you also have Bill Russell as well. I don't think you can dispute 11 rings. Maybe you can, I'm not sure, but 11 rings is just tough. And also you got to think about Bill Russell was one of the people, or somebody who could basically contain Wilt Chamberlain, who averaged 50 points. And you're thinking about his you're thinking about Wilt Chamberlain's 7'2" to Bill Russell's 6'9". So, but like I said, it's interchangeable. And if I'm not putting my personal bias in it, I think I would put Kobe top 10.
I think the term top five gets thrown around too flippantly.
Okay.
If you peruse the internet, you will see at least 15 guys who everybody says has to be top five. And it really comes down to who you're looking at. So first of all, I'm looking at my top five. This is me personally. Second of all, I'm looking at the greatest basketball players. I saw some comments that said there's no way Tim Duncan's a better basketball player. And that comes down to a side-by-side comparison. And then I think you can have that argument of Kobe being top five. Because like you said, he's the closest thing to Michael Jordan we've ever seen in terms of a skill-by-skill breakdown. But we're talking about greatness, so that brings into account accolades, team success, and in some cases, what you've done off the court. So, because that's part of your legacy. So if you look at the top five, the top two spots have to be locked in because it's Mike and LeBron. I don't think anybody argues with that.
Right.
And number three is locked in as Kareem. And there are some arguments for Kareem at number two. Either way. So now you only have two spots left. And for me, it's hard to put Kobe definitively in the top five when you've got so many other people that I think have the same or better arguments. Are you going to leave Bill Russell out? 11 rings, the head of the greatest dynasty of all time in professional sports history?
Who we play against?
Will Chamberlain.
But I'm just saying.
Wes Unseld.
Who did? But if I'm naming, go ahead. Finish it. Go ahead.
And not to mention what Bill Russell did off the court is second to none with his leadership and civil rights movements up to this day. The stuff that he has done has to get him up there for greatness. Are you going to leave Wilt Chamberlain off? That man was averaging 50 and 25 casually. He scored 100 points in a game. They changed rules in the entire league to stop Wilt from being so dominant. Are you going to leave Larry and Magic out? Yes, their primes were shorter than Kobe's were, arguably, but they saved basketball in a way that nobody else did in the 80s because basketball was not a big thing until Larry and Magic captivated the world. Not to mention, they both have more MVPs than Kobe. Are you going to leave Shaq out?
Kobe play. Oh, good.
Because Shaq was one of the most physically dominant players of all time. Not to mention, Shaq was the number one option on those three teams that won a ring. And now, I know you said guard plays enhance the big men. The fact of the matter is, the big men, especially in that era, they were the main players on those teams. You saw teams like the Knicks, like the Rockets, like the Spurs, like the Lakers. They played through the centers back in the day. It wasn't until recently, like the LeBron eras, that we saw people start to play through the forwards and play through the guards purely. And then, are you going to leave Tim Duncan out? Because Tim Duncan was effective up until the day he retired. He was getting 20 and 10 in his sleep. And he was consistently on a team that was around 50 wins. So, and then the other big argument that I would come to is all of those guys, I can point to an era of time where I say that was the age of that player. I can point to you a specific period of time and say that they were definitively the number one or number two player at that time. Was there ever that time with Kobe? Was Kobe ever definitively the best player in the league? I don't think so.
No 7.
Huh?
No 7.
But see, that's just one season, and there's still LeBron right there. Because that year, LeBron took a team of nobodies to the NBA Finals. Because the moment that Shaq kind of lost his dominance, and the moment that Kobe got his own team, that's when LeBron came up. And then once LeBron kind of started to peter out, Kobe was already gone. So it's hard for me to put Kobe in my top 5 because I don't think Kobe was ever that just NBA defining, dominating factor. I think he was always a very, very, very great player. But I also think there was always somebody who was just a little bit better.
Let's talk about a couple things. You named Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, who I think I have Magic Johnson in my top 5. My top 5 is Mike, LeBron, Kareem, Magic, Kobe. So I have them at 5. But I think the talent has to matter. Who did you play against? I can name so many Hall of Famers, so many players in that top 75 that Kobe repeatedly has to go against. Maybe he didn't play them in the finals, but he had to beat them to get there. He had to play against Tracy McGrady. He had to play against those Allen Iversons. He had to play against the Boston Big Three. He had to go see Shaq still. You have to see all the players that Kobe had to go against to still be there. Can you name me players from the 80s that was good of the 5 players I just named?
Hakeem Olajuwon was over in the West, but then in the East, Charles Barkley and Moses Malone on the Sixers at the beginning part, along with Julius Erving. You had to see, who else was in the East? I got to go through. I'm so sorry. You had the Pistons towards the end of Bird's career. They had to deal with the Bucks, who were always a decent team with Paul Pressey and Sidney Moncrief.
But you act like there were same teams in the West with the same thing. The Kings were good back then. The NBA, I said in the West. I said Kobe played in the West.
Okay.
He only played with one team.
I thought you were talking about the 80s.
I'm talking about Kobe's era. Kobe still played some great teams as well. He had the Kings deal in the West. He wasn't the first seed every year. And a lot of people talk about the Shaq hotels. Kobe in those finals was still averaging 25, 5, and 7. I mean, if you want to call it
30 and 15.
But I'm just saying. But you guys are saying to get carried. I mean, sheesh. Kobe was right there. And then when Shaq left, Kobe proceeded to win. He proceeded to win. And I mean, of course it takes time because everyone was joining teams now. Because everyone's joining teams now, he had to actually fight to get the wins. And I would obviously say the talent was better then than right now.
They were joining. Nobody was joining back then, man. You know what he ran into? After Shaq left, they had a losing record that next year. Right. And then the next year, they had 45 wins. It wasn't until Pau Gasol came to town that they got back to the playoffs.
Well, of course, he needed some help, and he won with that. And Pau Gasol, according to NBA, is not even a top 75 player.
Okay, so then here's the other thing. You said you're talking about those 2000s with the West.
Correct.
Tim Duncan was over there.
Right.
But Tim Duncan was dominating that era of the West. Tim Duncan was consistently going to finals. Tim Duncan was always around the conversation. Do you definitively think
Tim Duncan is a better player than Kobe Bryant? If you had an all-time world for the draft, you would take Tim Duncan over Kobe Bryant.
It depends on what type of team I'm building.
I don't care what type of team, just any team. You would take Tim Duncan over Kobe Bryant.
I'd think about it.
Why?
Because Tim Duncan can do pretty much anything. I know what I'm going to get from Tim Duncan
Kobe
every
do?
night.
Go ahead.
Well, he was never a great three-point shooter. You question sometimes his ability to play make. In certain situations, he always believes that he is the better player to take the shot.
You know who you're naming? You know who that sounds like?
Michael Jordan.
Exactly.
Michael Jordan
but he's the greatest player of all time, right?
Because he won 10 scoring titles. And he had 5 MVPs and 6 rings. And he was always the best player on his team.
I could argue say there's better scores when Kobe was playing than when Mike was playing. I could obviously say there were better scores. Kobe had more. Cause look, there was LeBron in the league. You just said there was a lot more scores for Kobe to continually win. Larry Bird had those MVPs because who else was going to win in those 80s? It was either going to be Magic or it was going to be Larry Bird.
Yeah, because
Kobe had way more competition. We said what?
They were just that much better than everybody else.
Exactly. That's the point.
So when you transcend your era,
there were so many other players in Kobe's era that it was harder for him to win like that. Even if he was playing good, like even in the 09 season where Steve Nash had won MVP, you could always say Kobe Bryant should have won MVP that year. I'm
not mad at that argument. My problem is what you're saying is going into what I was saying. Kobe was never the number one guy. Larry and Magic were always 1 and 2.
There was no competition for that
because they were so much better than them.
So Kobe was never 1 or 2.
I'm never saying. I just say you cannot tell me a definitive era or period of time, 3-4 years, where he was definitively in the top 2, top 3. There was always LeBron. D Wade had some great years.
When was LeBron better than Kobe?
LeBron was.
It took the 2013, right? The 2013.
Did you just hear yourself?
Hold on, because I'm getting to something here.
LeBron was winning MVPs.
That's fine. So MVP makes you better than somebody? So MVP makes you better than somebody?
I would say that's the most valuable player, Cam.
So if you win the MVP, you're the best player in the league.
That's supposed to be what it means.
So Nikola Jokic is the best player in the league.
He's the most valuable player in the league.
Is he the best player in the league? That's not what I didn't say valuable. Is he the best player in the league?
You're telling me in 2008 and 2009, LeBron James wasn't better than Kobe Bryant?
Kobe
You're
Bryant
telling me
won.
from around that time he was not better than Kobe Bryant?
I think it was a question about that. It wasn't definitive that he was better than Kobe Bryant.
So you've given me 2 seasons. I'm telling you right now, there were 5 years, 6 years, 7-year periods where all those guys I named were definitively
How
the best
good
players.
were Bird's teams though? Bird's teams were better than Kobe's teams. Yes, they were. You had
But
Kevin
you just told
McHale.
me-
You had the rest of those
You
guys
just told me that
too.
the 80s were trash though.
But
So
I'm,
how are you gonna? You're
but
gonna
I'm
say
saying
that
the
they're bad,
collection
but then
of
they're also
talent
good.
spread out. The collection of talent spread out in the 2000s was better than the one in the 80s. You want to chime in here?
Like I said, I feel like it could be interchangeable. It really just, to me, it comes down to your preference. It really comes down to, like, I feel like there's so much stuff that could go into the top 5, like how you named a whole list of things that could be considered. So I feel like I said, it could be interchangeable for me, but that's if I'm not including my personal bias.
I'm not even a Kobe fan.
We're not being biased. We're
I'm
being
not
subjective.
No, I'm
being-
saying,
I'm telling you
I'm
right
saying
now.
if I'm being objective, because Kobe is he's in my personal top 5. But if I'm being objective and I'm looking at everything other aspects besides my favorite players, then that's what I would be going by, is what I'm saying.
So who's 5 for you?
Who's 5 for me?
Who's 5? Because I want to know who's better than Kobe. Who's better than Kobe?
Bro, I named people that you can make an argument for. I just told
Yeah. So, but tell me who's better than him.
My 5, I've got MJ, I've got LeBron, and I've got Kareem. Bill Russell at 4, and Wilt at 5.
To be fair,
Go ahead.
you can go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say, this is in my personal opinion, where I'm just gonna be honest. It's hard for me to vouch for people like Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain because I really didn't witness it. But I watched Kobe. I witnessed what Kobe went through and what he played like.
I feel you.
So it's the only reason why I would put those people above Kobe is literally because of word of mouth. Because I didn't witness it, so it wouldn't have the same impact as me watching Kobe, if that makes sense.
I don't know, and I think that's why a lot of people put him in their top 5 because that's what they grew up on, so that's what they know. And I don't hate that. I get that.
But I witnessed it as
That's
well.
what I'm saying. It's like people saw that, so that's what they witnessed, and they know how good he was, and that's fine. And I don't hate that. I just think that it's too hard to definitively say that Kobe is top 5 when he is arguably on equal playing field with everybody else that I named below the top 3, because everybody brings it in different areas.
But you can't necessarily say that he's better or worse either, though.
So then it comes down to what are you looking at? I mean, if you want to look at championship rings, then you have to put Bill Russell over everybody.
He played in the ABA.
No, he didn't. He played in the NBA.
You talking about Bill Russell?
Bill Russell played in the NBA his entire. Boston Celtics were never in the ABA camp.
But I'm just saying,
He was in the
it's
NBA.
so long ago. It was so long ago. You have to look at the.
And
Honestly,
it's so hard to win that many times. It was so long ago, but they still had to win. They still had to go out there and play the game, and Bill Russell was a constant factor in that. The team changed around him. They brought in, Sam Jones. They would bring in KC Jones. They had Bill Sharman, all these different. You had people moving in and out, and he was the one constant, and they were always winning. And then Wilt Chamberlain was putting up 55 and 20. I don't care what era you're in, and not to mention that was around the time you did play through the big man. Wilt Chamberlain was the single most dominant player in NBA history. They widened the lane so that you couldn't just camp right underneath the basket, catch it, and dunk.
Kobe Bryant is amongst a group of players that I would say would die on the NBA court. Kobe Bryant are some things you can't statistically say, but you just saw. There are certain players. I put Michael Jordan in here. I put Kobe Bryant in here. I put Russ in here. I'll put, let's see, who else?
Put Russ in there.
I'm getting to a point. I put Donovan Mitchell in here. There are certain players who. I'm getting to something. There are certain players that have this level of I'll die before I lose before them, and that's why I think they have to be edged in history because of the grit of what it took to actually get there. Kobe was playing hurt on those sometimes on some of those runs. Kobe was going through it all on some of these runs, and he still won. The overcome story has to be put in there as well when you're talking about players as well.
Larry Bird played hurt so much that his career ended early. Larry Bird's back got so messed up that he had to retire early.
Sure.
Larry Bird was diving into the stands on a nightly basis. Larry Bird put 47 on a team with one hand because he was playing with a broken wrist. Larry Bird put 60 on the Hawks and had the other team's bench cheering for him. So don't bring the whole intangibles argument there, because all of these guys, don't tell me that there are people that would die on the court. All of these guys would be willing to give everything.
But not like Kobe.
Oh,
but not like Kobe.
I don't think
You can't say that for everyone. You
I
can't
don't
say that
think
for everyone.
Not everyone, but all of these guys, yes. Come on.
They all play. Yeah,
you're telling me that these.
But Kobe took it to a different level. He was mentally ahead of everyone else.
Damn, that's such a just like a pie in the sky argument. There's no way to quantify that. You're just saying, well, Kobe wanted it more. Why? Well, because he did. I saw it. Come on, man.
Well, I think.
And all the old timers will tell you that Larry and Magic had the same thing.
But I think there's also a difference. Like, I totally get what you're saying, because it's like when you look at an example like how, like in the NBA bubble, right, with the Clippers, with Kawhi and Paul George, right, when they were down and the entire team was playing terrible, Kawhi is, would you say, is the best player on that team, but he's not a leader, right? He's not a person that's gonna step up and say, okay, the team needs to play better, or I'm gonna take this team to another level.
And that's
Kobe
why he's not
is
here.
that.
That's why he's not in this
what I'm
conversation.
But I'm saying, like, that's the example that I'm using to set apart, because you said everybody would do that, but not everybody.
I said everybody in
would
this
do that.
conversation.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
I said everybody in this conversation would do that. Bill Russell would do that. Wilt Chamberlain would do that. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson did do that. Tim Duncan would do that. And I mean, Shaq was just physically dominant, and he would do that. All these guys wanted to win. This whole idea of Kobe wanted to win more is, I think it's a weak argument, Cam.
Okay, that's fine. But look, I give you that one. If you want to call that weak, fine. But I think there are certain players that if they told you I'd put my life on, your life is on the line if they don't win this game, I'm picking Kobe out of 5 players. Kobe is one of those top 5 players I would choose because I know he'll win in those situations.
So now we're not talking about greatest. Now we're talking about grittiest or most intense. This isn't
clutch. Like, is clutch a word? Can we use clutch?
Yeah, clutch is a word.
Okay.
But that's only a factor in a very larger argument.
But
so
it's a
I
huge
can
factor.
give you the you can say he might win in clutch. I think there's an argument there. I think Michael Jordan is right up there with him.
Yeah.
But you got to talk about everything else.
Right.
You got to talk about the fact Kobe was this great scorer. He won 2 scoring titles.
Right.
Kobe was this awesome player. He won 5 rings. He only won 2 Finals MVPs. I mean,
okay.
If he was the second option on 3 of those teams, and if you take Shaq off those teams, I promise you they don't get anywhere close to where they are.
But then when you saw Shaq, when Shaq wasn't with Kobe, I mean, he had to go to Dwayne Wade.
37 and 45.
He had to have Dwayne Wade to win again, though.
Well, he got traded there. You can't.
That's what I'm saying. But he went to Dwayne Wade to win again. Kobe won with less talent. I don't think Kobe didn't have a player that he played with on those Lakers teams that was better than Dwayne Wade.
That's true, and I'll give you that. And those 2 rings are valuable. But I mean, again, it's part of a broader argument. So if we're winning moments of the argument. Kobe has moments where he's really, really good, but the overarching argument, the overall body of work, I think there are just too many holes that you can poke there as to why he is not definitively top 5.
That's gonna wrap up our episode. Josh, you have anything to say?
This was fantastic. I love this. This was our best episode yet, personally. So I don't know why you weren't liking, commenting, and subscribing. I mean, it seems very simple. It's just 3 easy steps. You get to hear us talk about stuff like this all the time. There was a topic we didn't even get to, and that would have been interesting. I wanted to hear what they had to say about it. But Braves are also defending World Series champions.
But you have a Rays jersey on.
The Rays
don't seem like you're committed. That's all I'm saying.
The Rays are my AL team.
Okay, all right, I'll give you that. I
root for the Moneyball teams, and I root for the Braves.
Again, we have merch, guys. The link will be in the description. It seems like 3 steps is a little hard for y'all. So I'm going to bring it back down to 2 steps. 2 easy steps. All you have to do is subscribe to this channel that you're watching right now, Takeover. And follow the Takeover official Instagram. That's all you have to do. But if you do that, you're probably going to have to DM us or something, because we don't know what your Instagram is going to be different from your YouTube. So just let us know. And you can get a free T-shirt. Literally 2 easy steps. Go get a free T-shirt, or try to get a free T-shirt, and click the link in the description to get a shirt.
Comment down below. Kobe or Larry Bird. That's all I want. Oh, I want the people. I just want the people. I want the people to speak. I want people. You know, I have a poll on Instagram. I just want people to speak. I just want people to speak on it.
Well, I know that there's
I
one
want
guy
people to
that I have on my
speak
side.
I just want people to speak on it. That's gonna wrap our episode. Takeover up.
Hey, champ. Yeah, we play it all in night. Yeah, need it all in advance. The opposition know we're ready for it. Like a supper we eating, it won't be the last. Grind all the muscle, pull up. Parker right on the grass. We coming in, take over everything, run it up. Not that holding me back. 3 in the wood, rushing. I don't like Dutch, don't even matter, you know I'm a face. And when I roll a paper, I like to go double. Run up a check, flip a W, make it an M. I need